Hello, hello, and welcome to the My Sugar Free Journey podcast. I am your host, Aaron Farmer, and we're doing this a little bit different today. No guest, it's just going to be me today. I'm recording this as a video and as a podcast at the same time. So if you're watching this on YouTube, hey, hello, please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. If you're listening to this on the podcast, appreciate you being here. Don't forget to go over to iTunes and give me a review. But today is a very special episode because today I'm going to just be telling my story because this week I met a huge, major goal, one that I have been working towards for over 3 years now. I am now, for the first time in my life, under 200 pounds. My weight starts with a 1. This is something, as longtime listeners of this podcast or readers of my blog will know, this is something I've been working towards for a long time, since about 2014. So I am now half the man I used to be. I started off at 400 pounds about 3 years ago. I have slowly but surely lost 200 pounds. As of yesterday, my weight is at 199.6, and it is so cool because I've never seen my weight start with a 1, not since probably junior high. So that is so cool to see that happen and to see what I look like now, especially compared to those old 400-pound pictures. I was just so big. It has been a long journey, a very, very, very long journey. And although I've kind of piecemealed my story in a couple different places, I wanted to to put the whole thing together in one broadcast. So in one podcast, in one YouTube video, in one blog post, I have everything together in one place that just tells my whole journey, my whole thing. So I will tell you that my phone has very limited memory, so it's only got 22 minutes of video. So if the video stops at 22 minutes, I apologize. Come on over to the blog to check out the rest. But who knows? 22 minutes might be enough to get through all this. We'll see. So to start off, the first thing that you need to know is back pre-2014, I was a very sick person. My whole journey started as I was approaching my 40s. I've always been pretty heavy. I've always been fat. Throughout my whole life, I've always been the fat kid. From junior high, high school, elementary school, always the fat kid. But I really didn't have any idea of how fat I was, what the fat was doing to my body, how it was making me sick, until one day I went to one of those free clinics. They have them at CVS around here every once in a while. CVS will do like a free clinic, and you go and they'll do blood tests and whatnot. They do them at Sam's Club all the time as well. Got a few tests run. And that was when I discovered that my blood pressure was way out of control. I knew it was high, but it was crazy high out of control. Just completely nuts out of control. I always knew that I had a tendency towards high BP, but never really paid much attention to it. And I can still remember the look on that poor technician's face when she started at the machine and watched the numbers climb higher and higher. And the thing was just getting tighter and tighter around my arm, incredibly uncomfortable. In fact, when she saw the final reading of 220/175, she assumed the machine had malfunction. She put it on another arm to run another test. Turns out that was pretty accurate. And the crazy thing is that's not even the highest that I ever saw it. Before I really kind of got everything under control, at one point in time, a paramedic tested it at 237/180, which is crazy. I just had crazy high blood pressure. And it was when I saw that number that a couple different pieces of my life kind of fell into place. The big one being that I finally put it together that both of my maternal grandparents died from complications due to high blood pressure. One had a heart attack. My grandfather had a heart attack when I was pretty young, like 8 or 9 years old. My grandmother also had a heart attack, but it was due to complications from her high blood pressure. That probably happened 10 years ago, maybe 15. I'm not exactly sure when it happened. Actually, yes, I am. I know it was, oh my goodness, it was going on 20 years ago because my youngest son had just been born. Oh my goodness, that seems like a long time ago. I had no idea it was that long ago. So anyway, both my maternal grandparents passed away due to complications of high blood pressure. My father just recently passed away when he had a stroke due to his high blood pressure. So I got it from both sides of my family. I knew my blood pressure was very high, but I didn't know how high. And I didn't know that was basically a stroke or a heart attack waiting to happen. I mean, 237 over 180 is nuts. And just my normal resting blood pressure was 200 over 160. That was just, if I was at rest or if I had just woken up, that was what my blood pressure was. It's just nuts to think about. And, it was really thinking about my grandfather passing away from a heart attack when I was young that really pushed me to make a change, because I absolutely adored that man. And it was his passing away that really had a profound impact on my life, and in not a positive way. And all I could think about were these beautiful grandkids that I had. I had, I think, 4 then. I have got 5 now. And how much they meant to me, and how much I love to be around them. And the thought of putting them through what I went through with my grandfather really bothered me. I didn't want to have a negative effect on anyone's life, much less my own grandkids' life, by me not taking care of my health. So I knew I needed to make a change. It was also around this time that I was diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, which is basically when you're so fat that everything breaks down at once. Your blood lipids are out of control, your blood pressure's out of control, your waist is way too big, just everything's breaking down at once. That's when you get metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome just means you're fat and and everything's breaking down at once. So I knew I had to make a change. I knew I had to get the weight off, but I didn't really know how to do it. Which is, of course, a lie, because I knew exactly how to lose weight. Everyone knows how to lose weight. It's so obvious. All you have to do is eat less and exercise more. That's what they tell you to do to lose weight. That's what all the TV shows. If you watch Biggest Loser, that's what they're doing. They're eating less and they're exercising more and they're losing weight. The weight's falling off. Couldn't be easier. So that's what I did. I ate less and exercised more. I would do portion control. I would do all these different diets, all these different fad diets, and every one of them went exactly the same. I started off great, then my willpower ran out. I would plateau. I would get frustrated. I would go back to the old way of eating, and eventually all the weight would just come rushing back on. I could never figure out why it was so much easier to put the weight on than it was to take it off. I had to struggle to lose 5 pounds, but putting on 5 pounds, no problem. I could do this so easy. The one crazy thing that I did that really drove home to me how stupid these crazy diets were, and how much they were just messing with my head and messing with my health, was my brief flirtation with juicing. So I stayed up one night watching Netflix and ran across the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. So if you haven't seen this documentary, it is the story of one man and how he started juicing all of his food, juicing a bunch of fruits and vegetables, and how he lost all this weight. So I watched this doc and I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can juice. I can absolutely juice and get this weight off of me. So I was right there, I had my computer in my lap. I went to Amazon Prime. I primed me a juicer and got that sent to me immediately, and went to the store the next day, bought a bunch of fruits and vegetables. And for about a month, I did not eat solid food. It was just a fruit juice in the morning and vegetable juice at night. Mostly, lots of water during the day. And now, did I lose weight doing this? Yeah, absolutely, I lost weight. If you don't eat solid food, you will lose weight. So yeah, I lost weight, but I don't really know how much I lost, but it was enough to keep me going despite the fact that I felt horrible and had absolutely no energy. And I remember vividly, the night that really broke me was I was still doing my exercises. So I was swimming laps at the time because I needed a real low impact exercise to do. So I was swimming laps one night, and I did not have enough strength to pick my arm up over my head and do another lap in the pool. And I was just so tired, and I had to kind of float there and kind of move my head to the side to take breaths and float over to the side of the pool and get, muster up the energy to get out of the pool and walk back to where I was living. And it was terrible. And I went home that night and I cooked myself a chicken breast, and it was the first piece of solid food I ate in like a month. And I felt miserable. And I had felt miserable for a couple weeks, but I kept going because I was losing weight. And I really didn't know what I was doing wrong. The guy in the documentary, he never complained about feeling lousy. He kept talking about how he felt great all the time, had all this energy, and he was losing weight. I just figured something was wrong with me, and I couldn't do it anymore. Stopped the juicing, went back to eating like a normal person, and sure enough, the pattern repeated itself. All the weight came back on with a vengeance. Before too much longer, I was back to 400 pounds again. So that didn't work, and it was really, it was just unbelievably frustrating because I was doing what I thought was right, and nothing was having the effects that I needed to have. So I knew that whatever I was going to do, it needed to be something that I could sustain for the rest of my life. You can't sustain juicing for the rest of your life. It needed to be something that I could sustain. It needed to be something that didn't make me feel hungry all the time, which, that it seemed like that just didn't exist. That, it seemed like the perfect diet didn't exist. Because, whatever I was going to do, I was going to have to eat less, which is going to make me hungry, which is going to eventually frustrate me and get me back to, to where I was just as big again. So I didn't really know what to do at the time. But I still remember when the first little mini step came in this little sugar-free journey of mine. It was in the middle of the night, much like it is right now as I'm recording this. It was in the middle of the night. I was messing around on the computer and reading, flipping through different websites and reading articles. I wasn't really looking for anything specific. I was just kind of seeing what happened in the world. And I didn't realize how my life was about to change, but I stumbled upon an article on Yahoo Health, of all places. And it was about a woman named Eve O. Schaub, if you look her up, and how she went a year with no sugar. And she wrote a book, a memoir about her year. It was called A Year with No Sugar. And for some reason, I read the article, and it kind of piqued my interest. I couldn't really tell you why, because she didn't talk about weight loss, because she didn't have any weight to lose, really. But the idea that getting rid of the sugar could make you healthy, I think somewhere in the back of my mind I thought, if I can't lose the weight, at least maybe if there's something I can do that's easy that will at least improve my health, even if I don't lose the weight, maybe that's what my thought process was. I don't really know. I don't really know what I was thinking, but something about the article piqued my interest. So I clicked the link in the article that took me over to Amazon where her book was, and it just so happened that her book, the Kindle version of her book, was on sale for dirt cheap. It was like $3 or $4, and I just happened to have an Amazon gift card for almost the exact same amount of money. It just, I had $3 or $4 on it, and I didn't figure I would ever use it for anything because what are you going to buy for $3 or $4? So here was a book I was halfway interested in, and I happened to have enough money on an Amazon gift card that wasn't going to cost me anything. And so through the magic of Amazon Kindle, I got her book and was able to read it that night. And like I said, it wasn't a weight loss book, and because Eve and her family really didn't have a whole lot of weight to lose. But the one thing that this book did to really kind of kickstart this journey of mine was it recommended a video. And the video was by Dr. Robert Lustig, and it was called Sugar: The Bitter Truth. And so I've linked to it in the article. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can go to mysugarfreejourney.com/200pounds. The number's 200 pounds, Pounds, and it will take you over to this post where you can watch this video. Which, by the way, if this video runs out of time before I get to the end of this recording, looks like that's what's going to happen. I will just go over to mysugarfreejourney.com/200pounds, and you can check out this video. Dr. Robert Lustig, Sugar: The Bitter Truth. She recommended that people read it, or watch it, and so that's exactly what I did. And it was this video that really opened my eyes to the source of all my problems, because Dr. Lustig really lays out the case that all of obesity, especially juvenile obesity, because that's what his specialty is, happens as a result of too much sugar, specifically too much fructose in the diet. And once I watched that video, I was hooked. And so the idea that sugar was at the root of all of my problems was so simple, it was so clear, that I decided right then and there I was never going to eat anything else with fructose in it ever again. I didn't really know how difficult it was going to be at the time, but it was just one thing I was giving up. It was sugar. I could go without sugar. I didn't really need to eat sugar, and if it fixed everything, then good for me. I didn't realize how pervasive sugar was, how difficult it was going to be to get rid of. In fact, the one thing that I remember it like it was yesterday. It was one of my first sugar-free meals that I was making. I was so happy with the recipe, and I don't even remember what all it was, but I remember part of the recipe was French fries, because at the time I wasn't keto, I was just not eating sugar, so we could have potatoes. So I made French fries, and I had been very, very careful. All the ingredients on my meal, nothing had sugar in it, and so I made these fried potatoes, and I sprinkled garlic salt on the potatoes, and just on a whim, I happened to read the ingredients on the back of this bottle of garlic salt, and found out that there was sugar in the garlic salt. So there were 3 ingredients in my garlic salt. It was salt, sugar, and garlic powder. So the garlic in the garlic salt wasn't even the main ingredient. There was more sugar in it than garlic powder. And I just thought, how crazy is it they're putting sugar in my garlic salt? Who needs to do that? Sure enough, there it was, sugar in my garlic salt. So I just basically poured sugar all over my potatoes, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be harder than I thought. But it was a good thing that it happened, because that's really what kind of opened my eyes to the fact that sugar is everywhere in everything, and that I was going to have to do a lot of work to get the sugar out of my diet. So by this time, I was reading as much as I could about sugar and its effects on the body. I actually went to my local half-price bookstore and just absolutely cleaned them out of any books that had anything to do with sugar in the diet. I bought several books from Amazon on the subject, especially Dr. Lustig's book, since I watched his video, his book, Fat Chance. Fantastic book, by the way. It was also new to me that I needed a place to keep all of my thoughts together, what I was learning, all in one place. That's when this blog started, My Sugar Free Journey, mysugarfreejourney.com. I can't recommend you reading those really, really early posts, because I was just a guy that was trying to make sense out of everything that he was reading. It was a lot of new information to me. I didn't know a whole lot, but it was so important to me to have a place to put my thoughts down. At the time it was really just me reading it. Nobody knew who I was, but it was a place where I could put my thoughts down and do something really special, or just have a place where everything was coming together in one place. So I could put my recipes in one place, all my information that I was learning in one place, probably the most important thing that I was making were the Weight Loss Wednesday posts. So every Wednesday I'd just do a short video, talk about how I was going in my weight loss, and how things were progressing, and how I was doing, what I was feeling, changes that I made to my diet, or changes that I made in my routine, different things that were happening as a result of my journey. And those Weight Loss Wednesday posts were absolutely integral to my journey, because it kept me honest, it kept me accountable, and no matter what happened, even if no one was watching, I knew that every Wednesday I was going to have to stand in front of my camera and really give an account for how I'd spent my week, and what had happened to my weight, and how things had fluctuated, and what had happened. And so those Weight Loss Wednesday posts were absolutely key, crucial to my weight loss, because it kept me honest, and it kept me faithful. So those were really, really, really important. So the next step in my journey happened in May of 2014, which was just shortly after that article in Yahoo came out. It was about a month later, because this all happened just boom, boom, boom. It was really, really short amount of time. That was when I was listening to a podcast. So I had just started listening to podcasts, but one of my favorites now is Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn, because I have some online businesses, and his podcast deals with online business. And in his May 16th, 2014 episode, he interviewed a trainer named Vinny Tortorich. And Vinny told his story about how he had leukemia, and how he had overcome it, and how he discovered that sugar was a big deal when it really kind of fed his cancer, and how he was helping people lose weight with what he called NSNG, which stood for no sugars and no grains. And that was really, really important to me, just that podcast, listening to Vinny talk, for 2 reasons. Number one, it opened up to my mind to the idea that I didn't have to read books in order to follow this way of eating, that I could instead, or also, listen to podcasts and get new content put into my ears every week about my health and about health in general. And so podcasts, from that point forward, became a huge part of my education, but number two, it brought Vinny specifically into my life. His show has been a staple of my education from that day forward, and in over 3 years, I have started and stopped a bunch of different podcasts. Many different podcasts have come into and fell out of my podcast feed, but Vinny has stayed through it all. In 3 years plus, I've never missed an episode that he's done. His podcast, the Angriest Trainer Podcast, I can't recommend enough. It's fantastic. All right, so those of you that are watching me on YouTube, this video is about to run out. I apologize. This phone only has 20 minutes worth of memory. So if you've gotten this far in the video and you want to finish listening to the rest of it, come on over to the blog mysugarfreejourney.com/200 pounds, and you can find the rest of the story there. I apologize about that.